Welcome to After the 80 Intrust Super Cup edition. I'm your host Terry Pascoe, and on today's show we'll take a look at round 23 in the Intrust Super Cup. We'll also catch up with the Burleigh Bears coach Jimmy Lenihan and fifth and last returns, as well as Connor O'Brien from the Gold Coast Bulletin. We'll bring you the latest news from the coast. Joining me on the panel each and every week is Anthony Bomber Breeze and John Devine from Calling All Sports Brisbane. And if you'd like to join the discussion as well, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search After the 80 TV. And you can also download this as a video podcast from iTunes, so make sure you get on board with that. Round 23 has concluded in the Intrust Super Cup. Let's take a look at the results. And gentlemen, what are your thoughts? A few shock results in this one.
Yeah, well, obviously there were some. Obviously, Burleigh still in form there, giving it to the Blackhawks there. Obviously, the sunny coast there, losing to the Falcons there. But yeah, it's all getting down to it.
Yeah, no, Capra's having a big win over the Falcons, and also Mackay Cutters. Where's this been?
Yeah, Steve Shepherd. Well, they've got the ability, the Cutters and the Capras at home. They seem to sort of test side. No doubting Capras with Kim Williams, they sort of seem to be able to conjure victories from anywhere. So they've ruined Sunshine Coast Falcons. Seagulls took up a limp side there. Players had to stay behind because of the long weekend, so the Hunters had the win there. They're for and against in that game. Obviously, jettisoned them into the top six with a battle with the Ipswich Jets. And the Jets, well, I spoke to Scott Saddle last week. The Jets can play football in a car park. They don't have to win big at home, but they did that against Sweetheads as well. So
And tough road trip for Redcliffe, but they got the points over the Pride as well, 16-6. So that's almost all but secures them the minor premiership. They just got to make sure they win this weekend to secure it, don't they?
yeah, Redcliffe, they're sort of trying to get some continuity about their season in the back end. They seem to lose games and win games. Whereas the Burleigh Bears, as we mentioned, as we see, they've won the last three, and then they had a bit of muck up in the middle, and so they're starting to hit form at the right time, as are the PNG Hunters. And the East Tigers got home in a close one against the Magpies, a sideline kick. So yeah, it's all very interesting at 4, 5, and 6 spot.
Yeah, a tremendous kick from Braden Torpy, and we'll have a look at that game now. That was one of the games of the round that I liked, and that was the East Tigers and South Logan. This went down to the wire, but it was almost a game that got away from East and could have really shook up the competition too. So and allowing Ipswich back in. No Brodie Croft, no Billy Walters for East, and East had a lot of opportunities in the first half, but I don't know. Was that the finish they were missing, John? Do you think that it was just not having those? Billy Walters out with injury, and Brodie Croft obviously being called up to Melbourne.
There were some players. Chris Oswald came on the bench as well, and also Brett Kelly. So there's some strangers there. But South, yeah, they had nothing to lose. They were trying to finish it off. Well, I don't know, Bomber. They must have lost 8 or 9 on the trot or something like that. It's been a bit of a shocker. They were ahead with about 15 minutes to go, and then East put 4 tries to 1 on, I think, at the back end of the game. So yeah, they just had some players for South who were a little bit tired, except for Phil Dennis, because he's from Krypton and
He's ageless, isn't he?
I was going to say he scored the opening try for South, and he's also confirmed he's going after the 300. He's gone to South Logan and said, "I want to play another year."
I think it was the other way around, Terry. I think South Logan went to Phil Dennis, I think.
Is it?
Well, I have to get Phil Dennis back on board there. But it's good work there by East to actually come from behind. It was at home, but you can see on the scoreboard in the background, 18 points to 12, and that got extended out to 34, I think, to 16 at one point. So,
yeah, but it was Tommy Butterfield that really sparked the comeback here. I think you'll see it after this try, I believe. But it was also good to see that South Logan were trying a bit of Ipswich magic, Bomber. There was a lot of short kickoffs. It was like John Buchanan said, "You know what? We're not in contention anymore for finals. Let's just try anything."
Yeah, well, like you said there, they had nothing to lose there. The start of the year, they came out of the gates firing, but like John just said there, they've just lost that many games. I think they've only had 1 win out of about their last 9 games now there. But they got off to a flyer here, and they kept it going there. And I don't really know how they lost this game. So, they did.
Scott Drinkwater there, just showing how his class in stepping and speed. But this game, I must admit, going back a bit with the footage though, half time ended in a bit of controversy because it looked like East Tigers scored, but the referee said no, South grounded the ball in their own end goal. And we don't have the footage for it, but if you go back and have a look on the Channel 9 Now app, you'll see, I think it's quite controversial. It could have gone into the break 18 all, but because of that decision and not even a referral, like all the TV games, this is a Channel 9 game, they've got a video referee. I'm all for letting the referees back themselves, but that was a real telling point in the game.
Yeah, a lot of games have those sort of turning points there, but that's 1 minute of the game. You've got to actually play the whole 80 minutes and
That's
get on
true.
it. And you saw in that clip there at the end there to win the game with Marley Sebi scoring try. They all sweated on Scott Drinkwater to do something. He fires it, draws a couple, gives the ball to Marley Sebi. He goes over and scores. And then Torby had to kick from the sideline. So Scott Drinkwater, he took the flak and got the points for the Big Cats, and they're still alive.
That's right. And also, I can't go throughout this footage without showing one of my great mates, Glenn Stewart. Touch
If
judge
we
for
just
this
take
game.
the line from here.
Is there anything better than watching a touch judge fall over? I mean, nice guy, but filthy mo. But is there anything better?
Oh, well, he's doing the right thing for Intrust Super, wasn't he? Promoting, drawing attention to the signage, Bomber. I think he did a great job and proves he's keeping an eye on the ball.
Yeah, well, you've seen after that, he had a bit of a laugh on his face there, a bit of a smile there. I think he knew after he'd fallen over, it was a TV game, so he knew that footage is probably going to be showing around the place.
And at Christmas time at the dinner tape, I think they might roll that one out with the family.
I know there's been plenty of flack. I'm a big fan of Glenn Stewart, and I'm a good mate of his as well. And he copped a lot of flack from other referees on social media, so it's good to see. All right, we'll continue on. Bomber, your game was Ipswich.
Yeah, my game was the Ipswich Tweed game. Obviously, Ipswich went into the game obviously needing a win there. It was their old boys' day, and they also, during the week, they found out that Wes Conlon was hanging up the boots at the end of the year. He's been a great stalwart for the Jets, and as well as Dane Phillips. He was giving it up at the end of the year there, so obviously they had something to play for. And like I said, their old boys' day there, they had a whole bunch of them up there on the veranda there, roaring them home. Tweed got off to the good start, led 6-0, but then after that, it was just all Ipswich. They scored the next 4 tries, and once we see the highlights there, 3 of them were from kicks and bombs. You'll see one coming up shortly from Nat Neal.
Yeah, I think it's this one. Look at this one here with Dane Phillips. Is he going up and you see? I know this. It must be the next one. So you're right. There were so many tries just off kicks.
See, that's the second one there, and there's 2 other bombs that Tweed don't even go for it. Ipswich go for it, and they get over the line. So.
But they've got plenty of pace, haven't they, in the middle of the park and out wide. This is a good thing about the Ipswich Jets. Matt Neal, there you go, just like that. Oh, what do I do now? Hello, there's a try line. And away we go, because I think everybody's in disbelief, even from Tweed. But this is the beauty of the Ipswich Jets. They've just got so much mobility right across the park. Their forwards can score tries, and the kick chase is always solid from the Jets. And look at that
Another
one.
kick. That's 4 tries from 4 kicks.
But it shows the quality of Dane Phillips and putting a lot of those bombs pretty much on a penny. What's the latest from him? Is Dane finished after the season as well? Is he retiring?
Yeah. He's given up. I don't know what the reason is for his day. Like he's an inaugural part of the Jets here. And this is Wes Conlon there. Like this is his last game at the North Ipswich Reserve there. He got over for 4 tries. The Kangaroo Catch got over for 3 tries, and Marmon Barber got over for a try. But the player of the match was that number 9 there, Jaden Connors. He absolutely killed him up the middle. It was Damien Cook-like.
Isn't it great to see a lot of attacking football? But could you argue, John, that as much as people question Kane Elgey's defence in first grade, but it shows that when he's not playing for Tweed, it's he's missing, and this is what I guess was the one part that was missing from Tweed's performance.
Yeah, and it's disappointing for Tweed because basically they've had 3/3 of the season. Obviously the middle third was their best. Their first start, they lost 8 games before they beat Wynnum Manly. Then the back end of the season, they come away with a poor run home. But if you start to rely on one player and their ability to lift you in a game, you're probably going to lose out there. So the depth of Tweed heads needs to be, brought into question to a degree when those players drop out and those have got to step up into the Intrust Super Club. Or Cup and Club as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, you also hear from Connor O'Brien from the Gold Coast Bulletin. There's a bit of controversy about this game with Bryce Cartwright, but just stay tuned for that. You'll hear the latest from the Gold Coast Bulletin. Now, John, you're calling Burleigh and Townsville for Burleigh TV.
Yeah.
Mate, what do you think?
Well, it's 2v3, it's going to be a bang-on contest. But for mine, the first 20 minutes, Townsville Blackhawks probably could have got away with a fly. There's a forward pass was ruled, play went in a touch. Chris Freeman almost went over and scored as well. He could have blown out big time. Their field position was a little bit tight because the kicking game was a little bit better. And Chris Freeman, he ran a muck from dummy half. But this first try here, Dylan Pithy, a bit of a shoulder charge to get into the corner. Not much of Burleigh Pizzy Park to score, and he goes over. That was in the first couple of minutes. After that, it was all the Townsville Blackhawks. And you got Rod Griffin there. leading the way, taking it up. But they were good. There's Anderson coming back inside. But now he should be picked off. Fire lower. Just goes crossfield.
Jets would fit in Ipswich.
Yeah, that's
Jets,
right.
They're beautiful.
And I think they all assumed that he was just going to flick it off to the winger, and he didn't. He just ran it. And then you see his next try here. It's just a beautiful line.
Yeah, Davey goes across for his second here. Just holds up the ball. Quick hands there from Docker Clay, I think it was there, or Feeney, the halfback there, just found a forward runner there. And things started to look a bit grim there. We noticed that the tackle, the penalty count was pretty high. And we thought they had to come out. Pat Politoni, what a lovely cut-out ball to Hanari Wells. He still had a bit of work to get over Anderson. Goes in the corner. But Pat Politoni and Jamie Dowling, that you see in there with the headgear, once they got back on the parky, they started to rule the roost. There's Fogarty, great ball. Rowe, and then Burkers having a whale of a game, goes in there and touches down. So the game was two halves, and I think it was quite good for Burleigh Bears. They're back on track, and Townsville Blackhawks another loss. I'm not saying they're in trouble, but they're up against Wynnum Manly this weekend before they go into finals.
Well, that's right, and Wynnum at home too, so that's going to be a real challenge for them. Whether that's going to be like you'd assume with the way that it's been playing that Townsville will beat Wynnum, and it'll be a good spark for them into the finals. But
Wynnum could do exactly what South did last week. What the hell? Just play what sort of foot you want to go out there, throw it around, see what happens, and that can unsettle the side that's looking for structure. And the Blackhawks, they're not. They want to try and get finals footy underway, and they've sort of fallen over, whereas Burleigh is starting to hit at the right time. All
right, that footage was courtesy of QRL Media. If you'd like to see all the highlights and interviews from the weekend, please head to qrl.com.au. Let's have a look at the all-important competition ladder. I feel like getting a mathematician hat on here to work out what can happen over the next few weeks. Everyone's pretty much, the top six is pretty much set, except for the fact that Ipswich Jets could come in. Now, Ipswich do need one of three things to happen, either East, Northern Pride or PNG to lose. Now, is possible. East have got Burleigh this weekend, so that could happen. Probably Pride. I think Pride will probably get over Tweed Heads, depending. Obviously, if Tweed do have some of those NRL players coming back, I doubt it. I'd say that KNLG and that will be staying there. And PNG Hunters at Rockhampton. PNG and Ipswich are both firing at the moment, so it's hard to really knock them out. But it all comes down to for and against. If one of those lose, it depends on how much Ipswich win by. But Ipswich having the lone game on Sunday, they'll have a clear picture in the morning what they need to do.
Well, it's simple. Jets have got to win first, and they'll know what all the results are beforehand.
Yeah, well, obviously looking at the ladder there, East is definitely in there. It's Pride and PNG that can drop out, and Ipswich can come in, but. Well, like I said, all they've got to do is win, and then hopefully they'll be.
It's so simple, isn't it? You just got to win.
Going to church, praying, and hoping that.
I'll see them there. But they've got to win, but they'll know exactly what the results are the day before, so they might throw it around. It'll be a very entertaining game of footy on Sunday with the Jets, regardless. One, they've got to win, and two, if they're out, they're going to throw it around. It could be they could put 50 or 60 on, like they lose by 20.
And we have a look over the page, and we'll see pretty much how it's landing at the moment. Like I said, Ipswich really is the only team that could make it in there. Mackay will have the wooden spoon. There's nothing that they can do about that now, even if they win. There's no bonus points here, unfortunately. But yeah, look, a few disappointing seasons, but we'll talk about that next week with some of the teams that didn't make it. But yeah,
just remembering there's the for and against is only 1 point.
Burleigh Bears have clawed back into the top two after a spirited effort on the weekend. One man that would be happy with their performance is coach Jimmy Lenihan. Jimmy, mate, you must have been really happy with the weekend's efforts, especially with having a limited bench.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the boys played really tough on the weekend, and certainly the Townsville Blackhawks are certainly a benchmark side in the competition this year, and to sort of get a win last week coming into the last round to put us into the top two is a really good effort.
Mate, Dylan Pythian went off, Robinson went off, Jamie Dowling went off for a little while, but in the first half, they could have had more points on you with a forward pass. They ran in touch. Freeman nearly scores. Good character. You lost a bit of field position with that first half. Probably the talking point was the penalties.
Yeah, definitely. I thought we probably gave them a little bit too much easy exits. I think for the last 4 or 5 sets they had coming out of their end, they got 4 penalties that we gifted them out, and then the second try they scored, we gave them a back-to-back. So little bit of discipline issues, and I think sometimes that comes down to the energy you put into it. Sometimes I think if you're running harder and tackling harder, you sort of win those 50-50 calls, and Blackhawks are certainly probably beating us to the punch in that first half, so we sort of addressed that at half-time, and to their credit, the boys, I thought, really played spirited in the second half.
You're right. We have the privilege of Bears TV to send Mick Heary into the sheds. I don't know whether it's a privilege for yourself, of course, but he came back and you asked for discipline and early kicks in the tackle count. It worked a treat. It must be good to have the boys respond to what you say at half-time, and I'm not really sure whether the first penalty went towards the Blackhawks, not you might have rolled your eyes, but it was good to see they responded at half-time.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a really good group of blokes. It's easy to coach a really good side when they've got, we've got really good characters amongst the group. So they're always trying for you, which is, something that is really pleasing. And not just for the coaching staff, but certainly for each other, which just makes it so much easier for each other. And when a good group's happy and playing happy, I think that really shows on the football field.
Jimmy, Blake Leary has been out for a while there. He brings a lot of experience to your team. Will he be back for the finals at all?
Yeah, he hasn't trained yet. I think he's had about 9 weeks off now. He suffered a fracture in the lower part of his leg towards his ankle. He might have done it nearly before the residence weekend. And then we had scans, and whether they missed it or not, we're not sure. But then he sort of went through residence, played that weekend, seemingly hurt it in the first 5 minutes and kept playing for a big part of the game. And then since then he hasn't played. So we've been very sort of cautious with him and his rehab, and he's actually getting back to running on the field this week. So I think he gets his final clearance today. So if he's not available this weekend, he'll certainly be available for us in the next couple of weeks. And someone with his experience and talent is really good to sort of throw into your mix at the back end of the year.
Oh, well, obviously that's good news for the Bears. Another man that's vital to you is Luke Page. He's re-signed with the club now. He's a vital part of your side, isn't he?
Yeah, he's fantastic. And for what he does on the football field, he probably gives us twice as much off the football field. He's a really great character at training, really, really good presence and leader off the football field, and just makes life enjoyable at training. One of those characters that always makes light of everything. So he's been a really special forward for us this year. He plays well above his weight. He's not certainly the biggest bloke in the world, but everyone thinks he is by the way he plays. So we're very lucky to have him.
I guess using the word he's a bit of a character around, is that just another way of saying, or a polite way of saying that he's a bit of a pest?
Yeah, well, he can be, but he's got the alter ego, obviously, of DJ Moe Fresh. He loves he's not your typical front rower. He's the exact opposite of what you think most sort of knuckle dragging front rowers are. So he's a bit more new age, a bit more sort of modern man, I would say, if you'd like to use that sort of term.
All right. Now, mate, rugby league's a simple game. Running into the finals, do you think that it's just down to doing something, the little things like your completion rates? I noticed on the weekend the Bears were probably one of the few teams that had a really high completion rate, still at 78%, but is that something that you just need to do to beat the top sides like Redcliffe and Pride and Townsville?
Yeah, I think so. I think on the weekend, especially with us playing the Blackhawks, it was a game where an error or two was going to be the difference between who scored next and who didn't. And it was almost like a who blinked first sort of situation. The game was very close. It was a very heavy game. And when you're sort of spending money at both ends of the field with your energy in defence and sort of energy in attack, you can't keep giving sides repeat effort. So the more you can control the ball and sort of keep them down the other end of the football field, and hopefully they force themselves into errors, and I think that's the difference in these sort of big games.
All right, mate, you go up against one of the competition's best fullbacks this year, man himself, Scott Drinkwater. How do you plan against him? Like, you're going up against East Tigers this weekend. How do you form a plan to slow him down?
Yeah, he's obviously a very special talent. Sometimes I don't think if you focus too much on one bloke, I think, certainly him being a fullback, you sort of try and be smart where you give him the ball and how you give him the ball. But there's going to be times where, they're certainly using him as their ace up their sleeve as well. So in so many ways, that the ball's going to go towards him at some point. So where you see him in front of you, the ball's going to get there. But once he gets the ball, you're sort of hoping 3 or 4 blokes are working out where he's going to go, because it's certainly not going to be good enough to have him one-on-one with you. So tough talent. And a lot of these games, you're certainly trying to be smart. Like I said, how you give them the ball, and this weekend's no different. I think, East, they've proven, I think, maybe 9 of their last 10 they've won. So they're certainly going very well. They're certainly hitting form at the right time, and he's a big part of how they're going so well.
Jimmy, the back end of that game against Eastern Suburbs, I think South devoted all their time towards what Scott Drinkwater can do, and you're spot on. If you focus on that player, you miss out on guys like Marley Sevi. They've got a fellow called Brett Kelly who's got some wheels, Braden Torpy. So their back line is quite scintillating. The forward battle will be intriguing itself, but their backs, they got talent across the board. And if you focus on Drinkwater, they're going to make you pay.
Yeah, definitely. And we focus a little bit on the opposition, but we really focus more on ourselves more because we can only control what we're going to do. So we might have small sort of thoughts about how we want to give them the ball back and where we want to give them the ball back. But after that, if we're not putting our energy into the right kick choice, the right kick taste, the right kick effort and defence and all that sort of thing, we're giving them easy meters regardless who we kick it to. So whilst we'll have a little eye on East this weekend, we'll certainly sort of be majorly focusing on how we can be better from last week's effort and sort of improve again.
Do you see yourself, Jimmy, becoming the minor premiers this year? I know you're only 1 point away from Redcliffe, and it all obviously depends on them losing, but do you think having that home ground advantage in week 2 of the finals be a huge benefit to you guys?
It'll be nice, but there's no doubt the Carrots the top 2. So if you can finish in the top 2, it's really simple. If you finish first or second, you get 2 games to make the grand final. If you finish third, you got to play 2 games to make a game to make the grand final. So it certainly is a real advantage to finish in the top 2, whether you're minor premiers or not, or playing that home game at home. I don't think it's all, it'd be nice certainly, but the advantage is the top 2, and you're 1 game away from going to Redcliffe or whoever's the minor premiers to win 1 game to go to the dance. So the top 2's the Carrot, top 3 you're making your life really hard.
Exactly. All right, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time. Also, congratulations on the weekend with your 100th win. I think, John, you're saying only the 4th coach.
4th coach, yeah. 100th win in the Intrust Super Cup, mate. It seems like 2.5 years ago. 100 wins, not too bad in a premiership. Not bad for 3 years in the competition.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's probably something I didn't even realise until the weekend of the game came up. So it's, one of those things that was really nice. But I went 101 this weekend. It'll be a lot better.
All right, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And a big thank you to Jimmy Lenihan from the Burleigh Bears there, giving us his time. It's always much appreciated. Now, let's stick with the Gold Coast theme and check in with the Gold Coast Bulletin's greatest sports reporter of all time, Connor O'Brien.
G'day, how you going, guys?
Good. Now, mate, Burleigh eyeing off a top 2 spot, but a tough game on Saturday against East. How do you think it'll go?
Yeah, it's big game, really important game, obviously for the Bears here, because if they win, they're guaranteed a top 2 spot, which will put them on the path to the that they kind of went down in 2016 when they went on to win the premiership. But the Tigers, obviously, they'll be pretty fired up. I guess they're still playing for their season a bit too. So it should be a cracking game up there.
Burleigh been in form the last few weeks, and they've done it without Blake Leary and Troy Leo. What's the latest on them two returning onto the field?
Yeah, well, look, Blake Leary has been out since since the Queensland Residents game that he captained. He did his ankle that game, and he's been out since then. It was a bit worse than they thought, but he's getting pretty close. Jimmy Lenihan's been saying, he needs a full week on the paddock. But yeah, I'd say he's probably an outside chance for this weekend. And Troy Leo, he copped a knock a couple of weeks back. He nearly played last weekend, but it was a late withdrawal. Hanari Wells came in for him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Troy Leo is back in the side. He's the try scoring machine out there on the wing, and they can certainly do with him to get a couple of points against the Tigers.
Mate, the Gold Coast is going well. The Tweedhead Seagulls are probably, for me, the outstanding side of the competition. They were last year. They're almost in the 6th. Now there's conjecture around Bryce Cartwright coming into it as well with the Ipswich Jets game last week. What's the story on that one?
Yeah, that was a funny old story there. Tweed have had a much improved season. They've called in the last month or two, but they weren't. Don't think they were too impressed when. So basically, what happened was Bryce played 8 minutes for the Titans on Friday night. Tweed and the Titans sort of wanted him to back up against Ipswich on Saturday. The QRL approved it, and then Ipswich protested, and then the decision was reversed. And so basically, we could actually even see that leading to a change in rules. When I spoke to Dave Maiden from the QRL, he said, we may need to look at that because we want the best players playing in our competition. And so, it was a strange situation, especially on the same weekend that Reece Martin went out for 4 seconds, I think it was, in the Intrust Super Premiership game for the Bulldogs, just to qualify before backing up for the Bulldogs, so in the NRL. So, it was a funny old weekend in that sense.
But that's the point. I mean, what's it harming? If you want the best players on the park, he only played 8 minutes. It's more up to the player welfare than it is for the competition. I don't see where Ipswich's angle would have been. Yeah,
well, they claimed that that it was in the rules that you can't have a player back up in that instance, and the QRL believe that was right. But then Tweed have told me that they've scoured the operations manual, and they said that there's nothing in there that would disallow it. So it's a bit of a difference of opinion there. But anyway, I think we'll see some more clear rules around that in the probably for the future seasons.
Mate, I guess that's what happens when you've got one of the state's best solicitors working on your books. You can get away. It's probably rule
doesn't hurt, does it?
No, rule 44.25 says this. So, mate.
And also Steve Johnson said this, so that's enough. It's an unwritten law.
All right, mate. Now, what can we?
Look,
Sorry,
you continue, mate.
Mate, so what can we see in the Gold Coast Bulletin in the coming days?
Look, we'll have coming up, Luke Page is approaching game number 100, obviously a fan favourite, a big hit with fans all across the Intrust Super Cup, and so we'll have a bit of a tribute for Pagey, and hopefully he's certainly looking to lead the Bears to the second premiership in 3 years, and 100 games comes at a good time leading into that.
All right, Connor, thank you very much for your time, mate. Enjoy your weekend.
You too, guys. Thank you for having me.
Connor O'Brien there from the Gold Coast Bulletin. Always great to have him on. He always brings us his latest news. Now it's time for fifth and last. It returns for another week. Just to recap, I'll ask the panel 5 questions. They got 5 minutes to give all their answers in. Also, you can have your thoughts as well. Make sure you leave your comments below. Now let's get started. Can Ipswich make the final 6? John?
No. I think they've left it too late, but I would imagine the team finishing third will be hoping the Jets don't make it either.
All right, Bomber, do you think they can make it?
They can make it, yes. Will they make it? Probably no, because I think the 2 teams ahead of them, PNG and who's the other one? PNG and the Pride, I think both will win too. So, but if one of them do slip up, yes, they can make it.
Definitely. There's no such thing as an easy game. All right, now, second question. Has Redcliffe secured the minor premiership? John?
That draw might have got them the minor premiership. It all depends on what Burleigh can do against East. But I don't know. They're a little bit... No, I don't think I think Burleigh might jump in there.
But I actually think the draw disadvantaged them, because if they actually took that win away like they were supposed to, it would have been secured now. So, Bomber, what do you think?
I think they will. They'll win this weekend, and then it doesn't really matter what happens below them. They're 1 point ahead. So a win this week for Redcliffe. Yes, they're the minor premiers.
Yeah, huge implications too, because they'll take the week off and then play at home. So it'll be huge. Now, are the rules for the eligibility in the Intrust Super Cup adequate?
Do you think they will?
Of course they will. Are the rules for eligibility in Intrust Super Cup finals adequate? This is after the former Black Hawks, Reece Martin, come on for a cameo in the Intrust Super Premiership, which is the New South Wales Cup. Ran on for kickoff and pretty much walked off. What do you think? Is it a bit of a joke, or?
Well, if they're playing by the rules and there's no stipulation to say whether you can or cannot, if there's a grey area, it needs to be sorted out. But while there's a grey area, take advantage of it and go for your life. And never deny anybody a game of footy. I'd go there for a minute.
Well, he didn't even. I don't even think he took a hit up. Is it just a matter of that we should have? Yes, you got to play 8 games, but you've also got to have played X amount of minutes. Like, you can't say 80 minutes, because what if it is a forward and he never plays 80 minutes?
Well, that's it. You probably at least got to play 10, 15 minutes, don't you? But obviously, we were alluding to this question about Bryce Cartwright on the weekend, aren't we? Where he couldn't play. He played for, what did he play, 8 minutes for the Titans there, and then obviously wanted to play for Tweed there. They got the clearance, like we heard earlier. I I think they've got to play at least 10, 15 minutes of the game to be classed as taking part in the game. Standing on the sideline, kicking off and walking off, that's not taking part in the game.
But it also takes into account that the Bulldogs had to play with a 3-man bench because he had to sit on the sideline. So he wasn't like he just went back and put his suit on and
Well,
left.
that's their choice, though. I mean, if you want to, that's the sort of game you want to play and play well for. You got a 3-man bench. Well, you got to ask those 3 guys on the bench. Are you happy to step up as well? You know, maybe not.
All right. Now, can the PNG Hunters go back to back?
No, they can't. The big thing about the PNG Hunters last year is they won the minor premiership, so they hosted the final at Port Moresby, and that got them into the grand final. They only won it with 2 minutes to go, as we know, against the Sunshine Coast Falcons. If any side can probably do it from 6th spot, I think it's probably with the Jets, but I don't think the PNG Hunters can do it because their away record this year is pretty ordinary. They've done really well. There's probably about 4 or 5 players from that grand final side that are fronting up this year, but away they're just a bit disastrous.
Yeah, look, PNG didn't have the best start to the season. You know, with not just form, but we also talk about that their side was pretty much gutted from the premiership win. What do you think? Do you think they could go back to back?
No, I don't think they can either. Like John said, their away record's not real flash. They are probably one of the form teams at the moment, but to win the grand final, they're going to have to win 3 games over here in Australia, and I'm not sure they can go 3 weeks in a row winning. So no, they can't.
All right. Final question, nice easy one. Who's your Intra Super Cup grand finalists?
That's a tough one. I think for mine, I think Burleigh will be one of those sides, and I'm just concerned about the Townsville Blacks. I think Townsville might sneak in because they've only got 1 or 2 players that go back to the Cowboys, whereas Redcliffe have obviously got a couple of players that might have to go to into the Broncos if they make the finals. I don't know about Redcliffe. There's something that happened in the last month that's not quite right. I hope I'm wrong for your sake, Terry, but I think it might be. I think we saw a prelude to the grand final last weekend when Burleigh hosted the Blackhawks.
What about you? Who's your grand finalists?
Well, I like Redcliffe. I think they're one team in there. I'm against you, John. Sorry. I think Redcliffe are going to be there, and then obviously I don't see any team from the bottom half making it. Obviously, the only one that I can, whoever finishes in third, whether that be the Blackhawks, they can. So, yeah, I think it'll be Redcliffe Blackhawks myself. So.
What about the talk that the East, the Smokies, Adrian Bell, Scott Sattler have all said the East Tigers, if they get their game together, they're probably the dark horse to win this competition, are they?
I think so.
After last weekend, even though they only just got over?
My tip's Redcliffe and East grand final. I think that, well, there we are. Look at that. I just snuck it in. No, but I just think that it's a good chance of happening. I think with having that amazing back line as well, Scott Drinkwater, I think
you've got some money on East, haven't you? You've tipped them for a while.
Look,
He's got money on all of them.
Gamble responsibly.
No, you can see what's happening. You got to have Cameron Cullen, Adam Moggs, Scott Sippel, and that watching the show, and they're going to say Terry's tipped us.
Get that out of here.
Get out of here.
So, well, my advice is anything that Terry Pascoe tips, just put a line through it. I'm going to get him to pick 23 horses come Melbourne Cup, the one he leaves out.
All right. Now, you can have your say. Let us know what you think and leave your comments below. Sorry, Redcliffe. Sorry, East. Let's take a look at this weekend's games. We can see what the games that sort of mean the most. We've already talked a little bit about it. But, the first game, Channel 9 game, Tigers-Bears, that's a huge game as well. So how do you think that one will go?
Well, that's the game of the round, isn't it? That can move East a long way up the ladder and drop Burleigh down the ladder there. It's got implications for the top 2 and implications for East to drop further down the ladder as well. So that's the game of the round there. I'm tipping East to win that one at home.
But I guess there's no such thing as an easy game in the Intra Super Cup, and I know I say that quite a lot on this show, but, Wynnum with Townsville at home, that's pretty big as well, because Wynnum got nothing to play for. They got that big chook pen behind there. Raging on. I'm sure you'll be there with Seagull TV as well. Yeah,
it's the Wynnum Manly Seagulls, the 150th game for Peter Gubb as well. Patrick Templeman hasn't been named, and I don't know whether they'll get over the Blackhawks. They've got to muster up the Blackhawks. But the game for me on the weekend was probably going to be the Cutters and the Falcons. The Cutters could just spring anything. They could beat anybody on their day. That will be a crackerjack game. Interesting enough, though, there's 5 or 6 games all between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. on a Saturday night. So you'll be crazy on Twitter and on the QRL side. That's right. And this would have been a perfect opportunity that maybe Channel 9 could have had an extra game this week with Devils and Jets, because
you know, a loss to East, loss to Pride, or loss to who am I missing? PNG. Really puts that North Jets game really into account, and I know a lot of people that would be watching that game that couldn't get to Bishop Park, so it'd be quite interesting to see what happens.
Well, like you said, the game, it's either going to be a make or break game. Could be a nothing game, or it could be a Jets must-win game to get in. So
I just wouldn't want to be a tipster in this round because, you know, I could see Sunny Coast beating Redcliffe. I can see Central beating PNG at home, saying goodbye to Kim Williams, you know, a bit of a farewell, and Central beating, you know, they did beat Southern Australian Coast. Yeah, they were a depleted side, no Dane Hogan and Riley Jacks, but be interesting to see what happens. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Big thank you to you both, Bomber and John, and also Jimmy Lenihan, Connor O'Brien as well. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search After the 80 TV, and you can also download us as a video podcast through iTunes, so get subscribing now. I'm Terry Pascoe. We'll see you next week.